You feel something strange inside you, a space, a quiet heaviness. Not sadness. Not depression, just nothing. Life looks okay from the outside. People might even say you're doing well. But you know the truth, something feels missing and you don't even know what it is. This is the kind of emptiness most people never talk about. The kind that appears when life finally becomes calm and all the noise disappears. Because when the noise disappears, you're left alone with yourself. And that's where the real problem begins. You didn't become empty overnight. This feeling didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of shutting down parts of who you are. You learned to stay quiet, to be strong, to not bother anyone with your needs, to be the responsible one, to never cause problems. And somewhere along the way, you stopped feeling what you didn't want to feel, but you also stopped feeling what you needed to feel. That's how emptiness grows, not from lack of life, but from lack of connection to your own inner world. There comes a point in your life where everything looks stable from the outside, yet something inside you feels painfully disconnected. You wake up, you function, you talk to people, you laugh when needed, but the moment you're alone, a quiet emptiness rises like a fog. And the truth is, this emptiness is not because your life is bad. It's because somewhere along your path, you slowly drifted away from yourself. You spent years trying to be what others needed, trying to fit into roles that made sense to everyone else, except you. You silenced your anger to keep the peace. You hid your fears to look strong. You buried your dreams to be realistic. And every time you abandoned a part of yourself, a small piece of you disappeared. Now life is calm, but calmness is exposing everything you pushed down. This emptiness you feel is simply the return of the parts of you that were never allowed to live. Your real feelings, your real desires, your real identity. And until you face them, no achievement, no relationship, no success will ever fill the space inside you, because nothing external can replace the internal world you lost. The hardest truth is this: emptiness grows in the spaces where you stopped being honest with yourself. You learned early that showing your real emotions made people uncomfortable, so you trained yourself to feel less. You learned that asking for love made you look needy, so you learned to need nothing. You learned that expressing hurt invited rejection, so you learned to stay silent. And now, years later, you don't know how to let yourself feel anything fully. Not joy, not sadness, not excitement, not love. You've become so used to holding everything together that you forgot what it feels like to actually live. The mind adapts, but the soul rebels. That rebellion is the emptiness you feel. It's the part of you whispering, "This isn't who you truly are." And the more you ignore it, the louder it becomes. That's why even good days feel hollow. Why achievements feel numb. Why happiness feels like something happening to someone else. Emptiness is not a lack of life. It's the presence of a self that you no longer recognize. And until you stop performing and start feeling, that emptiness will keep returning, asking the same silent question. When will you come back to yourself? There's another layer to this emptiness, one most people never understand. When life finally becomes stable, the mind no longer has chaos to hide behind. There are no emergencies to distract you, no drama to drown your thoughts, no noise to fill the silence. And in that silence, your mind pulls out everything you never resolved. Old fears, old disappointments, old versions of you that were never healed. They all start rising to the surface. This is why emptiness feels so heavy, because it's not actually empty. It's full of everything you avoided feeling. You think you're numb, but you're not. You're overwhelmed. You're carrying too much emotional weight with no place to put it. You're holding 1,000 unspoken feelings inside a heart that never learned how to ask for help. That numb space inside you is really a storage room of every suppressed emotion you never processed. And your mind knows it. That's why you feel disconnected in moments where you should feel alive. That's why good things don't feel good and peaceful moments feel uncomfortable. You're not used to safety. You're not used to calm. You're not used to being present with yourself. So when life finally gives you peace, you don't relax. You panic because peace feels unfamiliar. Joy feels suspicious. Love feels unsafe. Emptiness becomes the only feeling that makes sense, because it's the only one you've practiced for years. The truth is painful, but important. The emptiness is not your enemy. It's your signal. It's your inner world trying to get your attention, trying to pull you back to something real. It's the quiet voice inside you saying, there is more to you than this version you learned to survive with. Until you listen to that voice, until you let those hidden parts surface, the emptiness will stay, not to punish you, but to guide you back to the parts of yourself you abandoned. There comes a moment when the emptiness stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like a mirror. A mirror that shows you what your life has become: predictable, controlled, stable, but emotionally disconnected. You've built a life that looks right, but doesn't feel right. You've created routines that keep you functioning, but not growing. And the truth is, the emptiness inside you is the space where your real self was supposed to live. The dreams you never chased, the emotions you never expressed, the version of you that never got a chance to exist. This is why distractions don't fix anything. You can change your job, your friends, your habits, even your city, but the feeling follows you. Because the emptiness is not about your surroundings, it's about your internal world. You spent years surviving instead of living, years adjusting your personality to match what others expected, years telling yourself you're fine because things look fine. But your inner world is asking for more than fine. It's asking for truth, for depth, for emotional honesty, for a life that feels like it belongs to you. And here's the part most people never realize. Emptiness appears right before transformation. It's the space created when your old self stops working, but your new self hasn't been born yet. It's the psychological gap between who you were and who you're meant to become. The emptiness feels terrifying because it forces you to face that you cannot go back to your old patterns. And yet you haven't learned the new ones. This is why you feel lost, disconnected, or directionless. But this feeling isn't a failure. It's a beginning. The emptiness is clearing a path. It's preparing room inside you for a life that finally feels real. What most people misunderstand is that emptiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something that reveals you. It shows you the spaces where you've abandoned yourself, the decisions you made out of fear instead of desire, the relationships you stayed in because you were scared of being alone, the choices you didn't make because you thought you weren't ready, the dreams you left behind because life asked you to be practical. Emptiness is the echo of every moment where you told yourself, not now, maybe later. But later never came. And now, even when life is calm, your mind feels restless. Even when you're surrounded by people, you feel disconnected. Even when something good happens, you feel nothing. It's not that your heart is broken. It's that your heart is untouched. You've built walls so high that even joy can't climb them. You've become so used to surviving on emotional autopilot that you forgot how to feel anything fully. And when you can't feel the depth of life, everything becomes flat, muted, distant, like living behind a glass window, watching your own life instead of participating in it. But here's the truth you need to hear. The emptiness is a message, not a verdict. It's your inner self, knocking on the door you locked years ago. It's telling you that the life you're living is too small for the person you're becoming. That the emotional numbness is not your true state. It's a temporary pause before growth. That you are meant to expand, to feel deeply, to reconnect with the parts of your soul you once silenced. And the moment you stop running from the emptiness, the moment you sit with it, listen to it, understand it, it begins to dissolve. Because emptiness isn't healed by filling it with distractions. It's healed by filling it with truth. The healing begins the moment you stop trying to escape yourself. Because emptiness grows stronger when you run from it, but it softens the moment you face it. Sit with it. Feel it. Ask it why it's here. Most people never do this because silence scares them. Stillness exposes them. They're terrified of what they might find when the noise is gone. But the truth is, the emptiness isn't here to hurt you. It's here to return you to yourself. When you finally sit alone, without distractions, without pretending, without performing, the emptiness starts to speak. It tells you what you sacrificed to keep others happy. It shows you the moments where you betrayed your own needs. It reveals the dreams you buried because life forced you into survival mode. It reminds you of the emotions you hid, because expressing them felt dangerous. And most importantly, it shows you who you could become if you stopped abandoning yourself. Emptiness is not a punishment. It's a doorway, a transition, a psychological turning point where your old patterns lose power and your real self quietly asks, "Are you willing to meet me now?" The reason you feel lost is because your old identity is dying. The reason you feel numb is because you haven't stepped into the new one yet. You are standing between versions of yourself, the one you were taught to be and the one you were born to be. This in-between space feels lonely, heavy, confusing, but it's necessary, because this is the part of your life where you're asked to rebuild your connection with yourself, to feel again, to choose again, to live for yourself instead of living for survival. And slowly, the emptiness becomes less frightening. It becomes familiar. Then it becomes meaningful. And eventually, it becomes your guide. If you look closely, you'll realize the emptiness isn't actually empty at all. It's full of every version of you that never had a chance to breathe. The child in you who wanted comfort, the teenager who needed understanding, the adult who carried everything alone because no one ever stayed long enough to help. All of them live inside that quiet spot you keep running from, and the reason the emptiness feels heavy is because it's packed with everything you never said, everything you never felt, everything you never allowed yourself to want. You've spent so long being who the world needed you to be that you forgot how to be who you are. But something inside you is changing now, slowly, quietly, but definitely. Because the emptiness isn't just showing you what's missing, it's showing you what's possible. It's reminding you that you weren't meant to live on emotional leftovers. You weren't meant to feel half alive. You weren't meant to numb yourself to survive. You were meant to experience life with depth, honesty, vulnerability, connection, all the things you learned to avoid because they once hurt you. But now you're older, stronger, wiser, and the same things that once broke you are the things that will rebuild you. This emptiness is an invitation, a call to return to the parts of yourself you abandoned because you thought they were too much, too messy, too emotional, too complicated. But those parts are exactly what make you whole. And once you begin reconnecting with them, once you start listening to your own truth instead of suppressing it, the emptiness loosens. It softens. It opens. Until one day, without even noticing, you realize it's no longer a void. It's a beginning. There comes a moment when the emptiness doesn't scare you anymore because you finally understand what it really is. It's not punishment. It's not failure. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's simply the space that appears when you stop lying to yourself. When the distractions fade. When the noise dies. When the roles you've been forced to play no longer fit your skin. Emptiness is the echo of the life you've outgrown but haven't yet replaced, and instead of fighting it, you begin to observe it. At first it feels strange, like sitting in a quiet room after years of chaos. But slowly you realize the silence is where your real voice lives, the one you've been drowning, avoiding, or doubting. It speaks softly at first, offering small truths you're not used to hearing. You're tired, you're hurt, you're not where you want to be, you deserve more. And as you finally listen, you begin to see that the emptiness isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. It's what appears when your soul is clearing out all the illusions that kept you comfortable, but not alive. This is where rebirth begins. Not with fireworks or breakthroughs, but with the quiet courage to sit with yourself long enough to see what needs to be rebuilt. The emptiness was never the problem. Avoiding it was. Now that you're facing it, you're already becoming someone new. The moment you stop running from your emptiness, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel again, not all at once, not dramatically, but in small, almost invisible ways. A thought hits differently. A memory stings a little less. A tiny spark of curiosity returns where everything used to feel flat. This is how healing starts, quietly, without applause. Because the truth is, emptiness is not a void to escape. It's a space being cleared for something new. You start realizing that your exhaustion wasn't laziness. It was emotional starvation. Your numbness wasn't indifference. It was self-protection. All those years you blamed yourself for feeling disconnected. You were actually surviving a version of life that never gave you room to be human. But now, as you make space for yourself, your needs, your voice, your truth, the emptiness becomes less like a hole and more like a canvas. A blank space waiting for a life that actually fits you. And slowly, you begin choosing differently. You speak more honestly. You stop chasing what drains you. You no longer force yourself to be who you're not. You begin to rebuild your inner world with intention instead of fear. That's the real transformation. Not filling the emptiness, but letting it guide you toward the parts of life you were always meant to claim. This isn't the end of your emptiness. It's the moment it starts working for you instead of against you. As the emptiness evolves, you start noticing something else. The people around you begin to shift too, not because they've changed, but because you finally see them without the fog of your old wounds. You notice who drains your energy the moment they speak, who only calls when they need something, who gets uncomfortable when you set boundaries. And you notice who actually listens, who stays present, who respects your pace. This awareness is painful at first because it forces you to admit that some connections were built on your silence, not your soul. But this is the psychology of awakening. When your inner world gets clearer, your outer world becomes impossible to ignore. You stop mistaking intensity for love. You stop confusing attention with care. You stop allowing people to occupy emotional space they never earned. And suddenly, the emptiness that once felt like loneliness becomes a filter. Anything fake, heavy, or unaligned slips through it. What remains is small, but real. And that's enough, because you're finally learning that depth matters more than numbers, and truth matters more than comfort. You're no longer begging to be understood. You're choosing where your energy goes. And in that choice, your emptiness transforms into power. The quiet kind, the stable kind, the kind that doesn't need validation to exist.